You stand outside in the freezing cold, your breath turning into smoke while you pretend to scroll on a cheap phone. But your real job is watching everything that moves around you. A black sedan idles across the street just a little too long, and instead of staring, you tilt your phone slightly and capture a quick photo like it means nothing. You don't ask questions, and no one expects you to, because your value comes from staying invisible while noticing everything that others miss. Behind you, a door opens. Voices rise for a second, then suddenly drop into silence. And when two men walk out, one steady and one barely standing, you keep your eyes forward like nothing happened. At the end of the night, someone presses an envelope into your hand, and when you feel the weight of it, you realize it's more than just money. It's a signal that you've been accepted, and in that moment, a quiet thought settles in your mind. You're no longer just watching this world, you're inside it now. Level 2, Career. Now you carry a bag that never leaves your side, and even when you sit down, your body stays tense like you're ready to move at any second. Inside are tightly sealed packages, and you never open them. But the way people treat you makes it clear that what you're holding is worth more than your entire life. You move through crowded streets carefully, switching routes, doubling back, and blending into the crowd so well that no one would ever guess what's in your hands. One afternoon, a police car slows down beside you just enough to make your heart start pounding, but you keep your pace steady like nothing is wrong. Then one day, everything shifts when a checkpoint appears out of nowhere, and suddenly your path is blocked by uniforms you didn't plan for. An officer steps forward and gestures toward your bag, and as your hands begin to unzip it, every second stretches longer than it should. Just before anything happens, chaos erupts behind you, people shouting and running, and in that moment of distraction, you quietly walk past without looking back. Hours later, your legs are still shaking, and that's when you understand something important. Survival here isn't about skill, it's about timing. Level 3, Bovik Enforcer. You don't carry packages anymore because now you carry responsibility, and it feels heavier than anything you've held before. In a dim room lit by a single light, a man sits tied to a chair in front of you, his breathing uneven and his eyes locked onto yours like you're his last chance. Someone behind you speaks calmly and says he talked, and just like that, the situation becomes clear without needing any more explanation. The man starts talking fast, throwing out excuses and promises, but you don't listen, because listening would only make this harder than it already is. For a brief second, your mind hesitates, searching for a reason to pause, but the silence behind you feels heavier than any order you've ever received. So you act quickly, forcing yourself to cross a line that you know you can never step back from. Later that night, you stand at a sink washing your hands again and again, but no matter how long the water runs, it doesn't change what happened. When you finally look at yourself in the mirror, there's no confusion left, only recognition. Level 4, Brigadier. Now you're the one giving orders, and people don't move until they see your signal no matter how small it is. A deal is set up carefully, with every detail planned out. But the moment it begins, something feels slightly off in a way you can't explain. Voices start rising, tension builds too quickly, and before anyone else can react, you make the call that decides how everything plays out. The room explodes into chaos, chairs falling and people scattering, and within seconds, everything that was controlled turns unpredictable. When it's over, one of your own doesn't get back up, and for a moment, the weight of that reality hits harder than anything else. Your boss doesn't shout or threaten you afterward, he just watches you closely and reminds you in a calm voice that hesitation costs lives. That night, you replay every second in your head until one thought becomes clear. You can't afford to hesitate again. Level 5, Autorität, Authority. Money doesn't come in small stacks anymore, because now it moves quietly through accounts and businesses that look completely legitimate from the outside. You sit in clean offices signing documents that turn millions into something untouchable, while knowing exactly where it all really comes from. At this level, the danger doesn't disappear, it just becomes less visible and far more constant. A shipment goes missing, a contact suddenly stops responding, or a rumor spreads into places where it shouldn't exist. Every situation demands a decision, and you handle each one quickly, without emotion, because hesitation only creates more problems. Over time, you stop questioning your actions, not because they're right, but because thinking too much slows you down. And without realizing it, you become someone who no longer reacts, only calculates. Level 6, Pakhan Boss. Now you control entire areas where streets, businesses, and even people who don't know you exist still fall under your influence. When you move through your territory, conversations stop and eyes lower, not out of respect, but because everyone understands what you represent. A rival group begins testing your boundaries with small moves, trying to see how far they can push before you respond. You don't wait for them to prove anything because waiting only gives them time to grow stronger. Your response comes quickly and decisively, sending a message that spreads faster than words ever could. By morning, everything looks normal again, but you know the truth. Control at this level is never permanent. It's something you have to defend every single day. Level 7. Forvi zakone kingpin. You rarely step outside now because everything comes to you through layers of people who handle things before they ever reach your level. Meetings happen in controlled spaces where phones are left outside and every conversation feels like it's being measured carefully. At first, everything runs smoothly, but slowly, small details begin to feel off in ways you can't ignore. A report arrives too late, a glance lasts a second too long, and a shipment gets intercepted in a way that feels too clean to be coincidence. That's when you realize the problem isn't outside, it's somewhere close. You start removing people quietly, cutting off anyone who even slightly feels uncertain, because at this level, trust becomes a risk. And over time, that risk turns into something else entirely. Paranoia. Level 8. The ghost at the top. Now you have everything you once thought you wanted, with money flowing endlessly and power stretching far beyond what you can even see. But instead of freedom, your world becomes smaller, confined behind walls designed to protect you from everything outside. You don't eat without checking, you don't move without planning, and you don't trust anyone completely anymore. Every sound feels like a warning, and every silence feels like something waiting just out of sight. You spend your time watching screens, listening to updates, and questioning details that never used to matter before. Sometimes you think about leaving, about disappearing somewhere far away and starting over like none of this ever happened. But deep down, you already know the truth. There is no leaving the life you built, because at the top, power doesn't feel like control anymore. It feels like a cage you locked yourself inside.